Welcome back to Note Lab Mode for a deep dive, one that might change how you think about the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Today we're going to be exploring Yuval Noah Harari's Nexus.
Okay.
It's a book that takes us on this wild ride through the history of information networks.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of forces shaping the future, we have to give a shout out to today's sponsor.
Okay.
It's cloutfit.ai.
How do you spell that?
So that's CLOUTFIT.ai.
Got it.
They're using AI to make waves in the fashion world by helping businesses boost user engagement and increase their revenue.
So if you're into... Go ahead.
If you're interested in the intersection of fashion and tech, give them a look.
Okay, I'll check it out.
But back to our main event, information networks.
Okay.
We're going to unpack some of the most impactful takeaways from Nexus for you today.
Sounds good.
One of the first things that Harari tackles in this book is this idea that throughout history, there's always been this tension when it comes to information. We need truth, of course.
Yeah.
But we also crave order.
Right.
Finding that balance is a constant struggle.
Yeah. What's so captivating about his work is how he frames information as more than just facts and figures.
Yeah.
It's a force, a tool, a weapon even that shapes our realities.
Like we're constantly trying to find the signal in the noise, you know?
Yeah.
But what I think is really fascinating is how he challenges this idea that more information automatically equals a better world.
Exactly. Think about astrology, for instance.
Okay.
People relied on it for centuries, making major life decisions based on the stars.
Right.
It provided order, a sense of meaning, even community. But was it true? Not really.
So it's not just about the amount of information.
Right.
It's about the power it holds to shape our beliefs and our behaviors.
Precisely. And that brings us to a really interesting concept that Harari introduces.
Okay.
It's called intersubjective entities.
Intersubjective entities.
Yeah, these are things like money, nations, corporations, even religions.
Wow.
They exist not because they have some inherent objective reality, but because enough people agree to believe in them.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how do these intersubjective entities come into being? What gives them their power?
Stories think of them as humanity's first information technology.
Okay.
Stories allowed us to share beliefs, build trust, and ultimately cooperate on a larger scale. That's how we went from small tribes to massive empires.
Wow.
It's the power of narrative shaping reality.
It's almost like we have this collective agreement on a shared fiction,
Yeah.
which then becomes real because we act as if it is.
Exactly. But as societies grew more complex, storytelling alone wasn't enough.
Right.
We needed new ways to manage information to create order on a grand scale. That's where things like writing documents and lists come in.
Oh, yes, bureaucracy. We can thank those ancient Mesopotamians and their meticulous clay tablets for that.
Yes.
But, you know, Harari makes a really poignant point about how even systems designed for order can sometimes stray from the truth.
Absolutely. He shares a personal story about his grandfather who actually lost his Romanian citizenship due to bureaucratic hurdles.
Wow.
It highlights how information systems, even with the best intentions, can have unintended consequences.
That's a powerful reminder that these systems aren't infallible. They're human creations.
Right.
And as such, they're prone to error bias and even manipulation.
Which brings us to another turning point in the history of information, the digital age.
Right.
And with it, the rise of artificial intelligence. AI has the potential to amplify both the truth-seeking and order-making aspects of information networks.
Okay.
But it also introduces entirely new dilemmas.
Harari talks about this idea of a silicon curtain.
Yes.
A world divided not by nation-states, but by access to and control of powerful algorithms.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
And one we need to take seriously. What happens when these algorithms designed to process information and make decisions become so complex that we no longer fully understand how they work? It's a bit like the Sorcerer's Apprentice, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We've created these powerful tools, but can we control them, or will they end up controlling us?
It's a question that keeps coming up for me as we delve deeper into Nexus. And, you know, it's not just about some far-off dystopian future.
Right.
We're already seeing examples of algorithmic bias playing out in the real world.
Absolutely. Joy Bulamnidi's research on facial recognition AI is a great example.
Oh, yeah.
She found that these systems were less accurate at identifying Black women.
Wow.
Highlighting how even well-intentioned technology can perpetuate existing societal biases.
It's a stark reminder that algorithms are created by humans.
Yeah.
And human biases can easily seep into the code, even unintentionally.
And that's why Harari stresses the importance of human oversight when it comes to AI.
Okay.
We can't just blindly trust these systems to make fair and impartial decisions. We need to be actively involved in shaping their development and deployment.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether.
No.
It's about understanding its limitations, its potential pitfalls,
Right.
and making sure we're using it ethically and responsibly.
Precisely. And this brings us back to that core tension between truth and order.
Yeah.
AI has the potential to amplify both.
Right.
It can help us uncover hidden patterns, analyze vast amounts of data, and make more informed decisions.
Okay.
But it can also be used to manipulate control and enforce conformity.
So it all comes down to who controls the algorithms
Yeah.
and what their goals are. And Harari doesn't shy away from exploring some pretty unsettling possibilities.
No, he doesn't.
He talks about how AI could be used to create a new kind of totalitarian regime, one where dissent is not just silenced, but preemptively eliminated.
It's a chilling thought, but one that's rooted in historical precedent.
Right.
Throughout history, information control has been a key tool for those in power. Whether it's the Catholic Church suppressing heretical texts or authoritarian regimes censoring the internet,
Yeah.
the goal is the same: to maintain control by shaping the narrative.
And with AI, that control could become even more insidious.
Algorithms could be used to tailor propaganda to individual psychological profiles,
Wow.
to predict and manipulate our emotions, even to create personalized echo chambers that reinforce our existing beliefs.
It's a scenario that raises fundamental questions about the future of democracy.
It does. Can a society truly be free if the information it consumes is filtered and manipulated by algorithms designed to serve the interests of the powerful?
That's a heavy question. But Harari doesn't leave us completely without hope. He does offer some potential solutions, some ways to safeguard democracy in the face of these challenges.
One key strategy he emphasizes is decentralization.
Okay.
We need to break up the monopolies of information to create a more diverse and resilient ecosystem where no single entity has too much control.
So instead of relying on a handful of tech giants to curate our online experience,
Exactly.
we need to support independent media outlets, open source software, and platforms that prioritize user privacy and control.
Exactly. And alongside decentralization, we need radical transparency. We need to know how these algorithms work, what data they're collecting, and how they're being used.
That means demanding greater accountability from both governments and corporations.
Yeah.
We need clear regulations for data privacy, algorithm auditing, and even requiring companies to disclose the inner workings of their AI systems.
It's about shining a light on the black box of AI so we can understand its potential impact and make informed decisions about its role in our lives.
It's a tall order, but one that's essential if we want to harness the power of AI for good, rather than allowing it to be used for manipulation and control.
And it's a challenge that requires all of us to be engaged and informed citizens.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be passive consumers of information in the digital age. We need to be critical thinkers, active participants in shaping the future of these technologies.
We need to be asking ourselves tough questions. What information sources do we trust?
Right.
How do algorithms shape our worldview? What role do we want AI to play in our lives?
These are questions that every individual needs to grapple with because the answers will determine the kind of world we create.
And that's where Harari's Nexus really hits home. It's not just a theoretical exploration of information networks.
No.
It's a call to action, a reminder that the future of information, and indeed the future of humanity, is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it. It feels like we're at this pivotal moment in history where the choices we make about information technology and power, they'll have ripple effects for generations to come.
Yeah, it's true. And one of the challenges we face, as Harari points out, is our tendency to oversimplify complex issues.
Yeah.
We look for that single cause, that one easy explanation, when in reality it's often a web of interconnected factors at play.
We see this all the time, right? Reducing these multifaceted problems to sound bites and slogan. But in a world that's increasingly dominated by algorithms,
Right.
this kind of single cause thinking can be especially dangerous.
Absolutely. We might be tempted to blame a single algorithm for societal problems, for instance, when the reality is far more nuanced. It's a complex interplay of social, economic, and technological forces.
So how do we combat this oversimplification? How do we make sense of this complex information landscape without falling into those traps?
It comes down to cultivating critical thinking skills.
Okay.
We need to be able to analyze information from multiple sources, identify biases, and evaluate the credibility of claims. It's about developing a healthy skepticism, not just accepting everything we see at face value.
It sounds like what you're describing is media literacy, being able to critically engage with the information we consume regardless of the platform.
Precisely. And it's not just about spotting fake news.
Right.
It's about understanding how algorithms shape the information we see,
Uh-huh.
how our own biases influence our interpretations, and how power dynamics play out in the digital world.
So it's not just about the information itself, but the context in which it's presented, the forces that are shaping its dissemination, and our own ability to critically evaluate its validity.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that information is never neutral. Yeah. It's always embedded with values, perspectives, and agendas.
Which brings us back to that question of power. Who controls the information?
Right.
Who benefits from its dissemination?
Yeah.
And whose voices are being silenced or marginalized?
These are questions we need to be asking constantly. And it's not enough to just be aware of these issues on an individual level. We need to be advocating for systemic change.
So what can we do? What actions can we take to ensure that information networks are used to empower individuals, strengthen communities, and foster a more just and equitable society?
Harari offers several concrete recommendations. We've already talked about decentralization and transparency.
Right.
But he also stresses the importance of human oversight, especially when it comes to AI.
That means having skilled ethicists, social scientists, and legal experts involved in the design and deployment of AI systems.
Right.
It's about ensuring that these systems align with human values and don't just optimize for engagement or profit.
It's about recognizing that AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. The responsibility lies with us, the humans, to guide its development.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads. The future of information networks is uncertain, and the choices we make today will have profound consequences for generations to come.
But one thing is clear. We can't afford to be passive bystanders. We need to be active, engaged citizens, demanding transparency, accountability, and a more equitable distribution of power.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Yuval Noah Harari's Nexus, what's the key takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with?
I think the most important message is that the future of information is not predetermined. It's a future we're actively shaping with every choice we make. Every click, every share has the potential to either reinforce existing power structures or contribute to building a more just and equitable world.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not just passive consumers of information. We're active participants in shaping the information landscape. And with that comes a responsibility to be informed, to be critical, and to use our voices to advocate for a better future.
If you found this deep dive into the power dynamics of information networks insightful, we encourage you to check out Nexus for yourself. It's a thought-provoking read that will challenge your assumptions and inspire you to think differently about the world around you.
And if this episode resonated with you, why not share it with a friend or colleague? Especially someone who might appreciate CloutFit.ai's innovative approach to fashion and technology. Spreading these ideas is how we start to create the kind of information ecosystem we want to see.
As always, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics.
Until next time, 321.